and I was surprised, and then we met up and I kind of told you my story, and here we are. So yeah, Premier Life episode number 1 with Saint Soldier, aka Amrit. He's a hip-hop artist here in Abbotsford, and his music's really cool. You speak about a lot of things that are very different than what's heard on the radio. How'd you? I'll just start off. How'd you get into music?
Well, I started writing poetry when I was a kid, like elementary school, and I don't remember writing a lot of poetry in like early high school years, but like in grade 12, I was back at it. And just after high school, I realized that, growing up, I listened to rap my whole life pretty much. So I realized that I could turn poetry into rap because it really is the same thing. And so I started, like in my bedroom on my little, those little round mics that you have. You started recording, those little ones.
Yeah.
I started recording on my laptop in my bedroom, and then I'd share that stuff with like my sister, and she was. After like a year or two of that, she said, you should start sharing this stuff with people. And so I started hitting up like open mics around Vancouver and came up with the nerve to share it. I went to Speaker's Corner. We used to have these cameras on the corner of the streets where you put in $1 and you get like 1 minute of sharing whatever thoughts you have. So I'd just go up there and like share rhymes and drop my email address. And then
that was on the corner? What
street corners, yeah. They used to have these cameras with a TV.
Yeah.
And
in Vancouver?
Yeah, they had one in Victoria,
yeah,
one in Vancouver, and then like one in Toronto.
Yeah. And
then they'd air this on like on Much.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, just random people's random thoughts and stuff, right?
And so, what year was this? Just to kind of give me an idea or everyone else an idea of.
This is probably like 2005.
Okay.
Yeah. 2006 maybe 2005 around there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was like when I first actually did anything in public. Was I'd go on a Speaker's Corner and put in $1 and share rhymes for a minute, drop my email address at the end, and then I get a whole bunch of emails, and like people feeling it, people not feeling it, whatever it was.
So you were rapping basically, and then at the end you just say your email.
Exactly, yeah. And I did that a few times, and then I started going open mics after that.
Yeah.
And it was cool. Like I was really nervous. I remember the first time being on stage and my hand was trembling with the mic.
When was this? What year?
That was probably like around the same time, around like 05, 04.
Yeah.
Yeah, around then.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You were trembling on the stage. And
I was trembling, and I remember that feeling. I remember it very vividly, and I've been doing it since then, pretty much more and more, and it's become a big part of my life, and kind of can't live without it now. Like writing, like I was telling you before, writing is therapy for me.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of selective as to what I share with other people, like what I actually put online from my writing, because a lot of it, like I look at music like my lover, and then every song that we make together, me and music, is like our baby, and then I send that baby out, we send that baby out into the world to do something, to do something good, hopefully. And so if that kid is a bad kid, I don't want it going out into the world, because it's gonna do something destructive in the world. So that being said, I'm selective as to which of those songs go online. And a lot of them are therapeutic for me, so they might not be positive, or they might not be the vibe that I want to put into the world, but there's something that I needed to get out for myself.
So the intention is good. You want, when you're sending that baby out, the intention is to do good, but it's also like a part of you going out.
Exactly.
So what you want to put out to the public, and hopefully, if the intention is good, hopefully it does good. But at the same time, it's also letting go of whatever it is you're holding on inside, right?
Like if sometimes I do songs that are like about social issues, and usually those songs come from me feeling burdened by knowing that issue. So if I learn about something that's going on in this world and I feel emotionally burdened by learning that, like farmer suicide, a song I did in like 2010. When I first learned about that, like I was reading up articles on like what was going on in India with the farmers, and I felt so burdened by the knowledge of that. So I went around to my friends and family, and I asked everybody, I was like, do you know what's going on with the farmers in India? And everyone was oblivious. All my friends were oblivious. Not one person gave me an answer. And then I was describing to everybody, and then I realized that this had to be communicated to like as many people as possible. So it lightens the burden for me when I share it with others and share the responsibility of healing the problems that we have with others.
I think sometimes we purposely ignore issues just because we don't want to deal with them and deal with our feelings towards them. Like today I was on my way here to Abbotsford from Surrey. I stopped at Tim Hortons, and it's the Tim Hortons on King George and 96. So King George isn't really the best part of Surrey. And there was a couple of rough looking people standing outside, and even inside there's a couple of rough looking people.
What do you mean rough?
That's very subjective. I thought of that as soon as I said it, but rough as in kind of homeless or kind of drug users look like to me. And then I went into the bathroom, and in the bathroom there was actually one of those containers that you dispose needles into, and I thought of it for a moment, and then I was kind of like, I need to get out of here. So it's easy to, I'm just sharing that example because it's easy for us to just avoid those issues and just pretend like everything's okay. And in our community we do that a lot. Your song Astray, I loved it, and it's a good way to send that message out, and I think that's a good purpose that you have, that you're using your music, or how you said you learn about issues, and then you want to share that responsibility with everyone. So yeah, I definitely love that, and I think we need young people, we need our community to be doing that, and this is kind of relates to why I'm doing this podcast as well, just to talk about issues that we don't normally talk about. So when you kind of got into music, did you want to be rich? Did you want to be successful? Successful is subjective, but what were you hoping to get out of music?
I think I'm just trying to go back to my mind frame of when I started. I think honestly I just wanted to be a rapper. Like I knew I liked what I wrote. Because what I wrote was true to what I felt. And then I just wanted to rap. Like I really wanted to, like I looked up to like Tupac and like a lot of these rappers from a young age, and it's something I really wanted to do. But as this whole thing evolved in my life, like when I started to get attention, I kind of wanted to back off from it. Because at the same time, I started to get attention from my music was the same time where I started to like get into the spiritual path, which was all about humility and about destroying this false idea of self, which is Amrit. And here I am adding another tag to my name, which is Saint Soldier, and then getting attention on that name and having to deal with like a shitload of compliments and like, oh, you're great, you're awesome, you're not. And I'm just like, yeah, that's cool, man. Like people are digging what I'm doing, and I'm getting like this ego massage, you know. And then on the other side, I'm reading Guru Granth Sahib, and I'm reading like Tao Te Ching, and I'm reading these scriptures that are teaching me to like to humble down and to find the true self. You have to break through this illusion of false self and this idea of this flesh being me and this character being me, because that is not me, that is not you. And so the evolution of like where it came from, like just wanting to be a rapper, and to like what I'm doing with music now, it's completely different. And so I kind of stopped doing music at that time for a while. And
let's put some time frames into it, because for a lot of people that don't know, I know, because I know you're 32. You graduated high school in 2002. I was surprised when you told me you were 32, because I always thought you were in like your late 20s, or I kind of thought you were a little bit closer to my age. But it's crazy because you said 2002 is when you graduated high school. I remember from our talk we had last time, and that's kind of when you began the music journey. Was that kind of the first time you started
pretty much
recording
2002, in my bedroom recording and
and then now here we are in 2017, and you're still doing it, and you've progressed so much. But I think we people like me, we think that it's gonna happen very quickly. I'm sure you feel a lot better with your music skills than you did when you first started out. But just to put that in everyone's mind is that it's been 15 years since you started. I don't mean to make you sound old, right? But
I'm just looking at it like I never actually analyzed the timeline like that. I just kind of live in today, and
because we I mean your generation was a little bit different than my generation, where we grew up with everything.
It's true. I didn't even have the internet until I was in grade 8. That's when we had the internet. So, like up until grade 7, like we didn't know the world, didn't know what the internet was. You know? And even when the internet came around, like the only thing we'd really do with it is go into like chat rooms and chat with our own friends that we were just at school with, no, MSN was not even there yet, man. MSN came around like when I was in like grade 9 or 10 or something, man. It was different. It was a way different upbringing, and cell phones, forget about it. I didn't have a cell phone until after high school. And
so it's way different, right? And I don't think we're used to all this, and we don't particularly know how to handle all these things. And a lot of people, I know a couple of young musicians that have kind of just started out recently, but just for them to kind of let them know that it's been 15 years and that it's gonna take time, and that's kind of with everything, it's gonna take time, and we need to be patient, right? So what do you think is the big difference between your generation and kind of like the young generation? Or to make that question a little bit simpler, like what do you think is different for a young man now, such as myself? I'm 22, compared to when you were 22. What would you say?
I don't want to like come across judgmental to the.
Yeah.
You guys are millennials, right?
Yeah.
Millennials. Yeah. But I don't know. I see like, and I say this in one of the songs I'm gonna release this year.
Yeah.
That I see like a sense of entitlement.
Yeah.
In a lot of millennials, not in all of them, of course, but I find it like overall, and it's not the fault of the generation, because we are a product of our times, very much so. So I think like the YouTube culture and this whole social media culture, and like all the YouTubers that have become so famous overnight, and you know, make one video and all of a sudden it's viral, and you know, you become this star. It gives everybody this concept of like, I can be a star, or like that's what I should be doing, that's my purpose. When like when my generation was like, figure out what you're gonna do to make a living and work hard at it, otherwise you're gonna be a bum. Right? And that's straight up what it was. And like, it's like we just hustled. I hustled my ass off when I was in my early 20s and figured out a way to make my life comfortable, and that was it, you know. And the art was always there, and this is like this is what I advise any of my young artist friends, is that focus as much as you can of your creativity towards your craft. Make sure you're nurturing it, because it's you, it's what you're supposed to be doing. At the same time, find a way to support yourself, your life financially, and support your craft financially, because you need equipment for it, you need money to put into your craft, to put it out there. It's going to be always demanding something from your bank account, right? So you have to make sure your bank account is sufficient for your lifestyle. Keep your energy in your craft always going, always flowing, so your soul is happy. And hopefully at some point that craft can start fueling your bank account. Right? But if you bank everything on that craft, and it's not a success,
I think it's if you also look at it as a way to just make money, your craft isn't gonna be the greatest. It's not gonna be real.
Unless you're just lucky and you know you fluke out. Right? Because that happens too. But like I was
it's kind of like the being at the right place at the right time with music as well, or with any craft.
Exactly.
And riding the wave. You know, like a lot of people, I think, who are kind of doing well on YouTube now, kind of rode that little wave where it was just starting to become big.
Right.
And it worked out for them. But now everyone is kind of thinking that, you know, I can, or they're only thinking that their purpose is to be a YouTube star and make their money off that, right? When they're not really being real towards the financial side of it, where you need to invest your time in. So definitely what you said, like that entitlement, I think it's there, and I see it in my life as well, where I feel like I'm entitled to certain things from my parents or from my peers, in a sense, right? So yeah, definitely that's there, and I think it's not really particularly our fault though.
No, it's not.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's just the whole YouTube culture and the social media culture has also created this other problem, which is when you're watching people's lives all the time, you become uncertain about your own. It's like everybody's watching this person's life, and this person's life is so great. You know, you don't see these YouTube stars showing the devastations they're going through in life, because that would be horrible. Who wants to watch all that? Well, a lot of people would want to watch it, but who wants to share all that, right? And so they're sharing, and it must be difficult for them too, right? Because especially the vloggers who are daily vlogging, like you're basically letting the world into your home, right? This is the first time I've done something like this in my home, right? But you're basically letting the world into your home, and constantly putting on a face for them that, you know, may not necessarily be your true feelings. And then for the viewers who are either admiring them or envying them, subtly they might have envy that they're even hiding from themselves, and then looking for self-assurance through their own Instagram posts and their own Snapchats, validation, that like, how many people like me, you know. And so like that's really harsh, like, especially for, you know, like teenagers and stuff who don't quite understand themselves yet, who are vulnerable. And so the culture is, it's like, I can easily say that millennials are entitled, but it's a lot behind that causes that kind of, you know.
Because when Facebook came out, 2000, or I think it came out in like 2004, but when I made a Facebook account, I remember it was like 2007, and I was in grade 7, and the first few years I didn't really use it much, but towards the end of high school, 2010 to like 20, you know, basically 2010 and onwards is when I started using it more and more and more. And then Instagram came along.
It sounds like a drug, right?
Yeah.
I started using more.
Yeah. It is like a drug, right? Because
I was first introduced to it in 2000.
Yeah. And then Instagram came along, and you know, it's like you look at someone's profile and it's like that's their life, and then you look at their life through their pictures, through only the good pictures that someone wants to share, and then you start feeling bad about your life. And I kind of started noticing that in like 2014, and what I tried doing was, I thought, you know what, I'm gonna stop social media, everything, I'm just gonna stop. But I realized that nowadays you need social media to be social. You know, if you're not on social media, then your really other way of communicating to people is by talking to them through phone or text message, and that's not bad on its own, which is how you should be talking. But to like keep up with everything, it's really hard, I would say. Don't you think? Or
I think like it seems that way to us because we're so intertwined in this world, where we think like what is it that we're really keeping up with? To be realistic, like what is it that we're really keeping up with? Like if it's world news, honestly, it'll just come to you like world news. Like your siblings or friends are gonna be like, yo, did you hear about the Parliament attack in London yesterday? Did you hear about, you know, what Trump said? It always comes through, right? Or they'll call you, or you can watch it or whatever. But like social media, like I think it's totally overrated, and and society spends way too much time on it.
It's kind of like, I have a few friends that are very, very, they're not really that active on social media. And in my mind, I'm just realizing this now, in my mind, I kind of like forget about them though. I've kind of forgotten about them, and it's like the people I see every day on social media, those are kind of the people I remember more. So how
do you think they feel about that?
I think they're enjoying their life. I don't think it matters to them.
Exactly. So right? Like that's the thing. Like if they don't care, then it doesn't matter. Like my older brother, he has not had a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, any accounts his whole life. He consciously decided, and he consciously made these decisions because he wanted to keep his life kind of old school. He's like, I don't want to fall into this trap. He's like, I see everybody's just living on their phones, and he didn't even get the internet on his phone until like last year. That was because he needed to for work, but he avoided it. He had a BlackBerry without the internet. Like he didn't want data on it, and so it was a conscious decision. And I have a friend who, well, same thing that you're saying. He didn't even get a cell phone. And he's my age. He got a cell phone one time after high school, and then he when the contract expired, he just never renewed it, so he never had a cell phone. Still doesn't have a cell phone. If I want to call him, I call his house phone and leave a message with his grandma.
Yeah.
And like 1 out of 10 shot.
I remember doing that when I was younger, like calling my friend and being like, "Oh, is he there? Auntie G, is he there?"
But it's cool times, man. It was a good time. Like you appreciated. Like I used to have friends come knock on my door and be like, "Yo, let's go play," or "Let's go for a bike ride," or whatever. Right?
Yeah. And then that's what like
simple times,
right? But what is I'm kind of conscious of it, right? Because I think I grew up at a time where all this technology was just starting to evolve and starting to become the technology where we use it every day, and then you grew up prior to that. So I grew up in the midst of it, and then there's people who are growing up with
completely
it, like right now.
In it. Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on that? What do you make of that?
Okay, so my older brother again here, he has 3 baby children, right?
Yeah.
And like and the way that they're raising those children, I really admire, and I think that's important for us to follow a kind of set of rules. Technology and the internet is a very new thing to this planet right now, but it's a huge thing. It's a huge evolutionary step in humanity and the entire globe. But we yet don't quite understand how our interactions with it should take place. We're kind of just jumping into it blindly and just thinking it's going to take care of itself, right? The whole thing will just work out fine. But we kind of have to take a step back and realize that a 2-year-old on an iPad might be
not the best thing.
Might not be the smartest thing to do, even though you might see 10 other mothers or fathers doing that with their kid. Maybe chill out with putting your young ones on technology, because it can be affecting their brains in a way that
we don't know yet, because there's not enough research on it,
right? And
it just hasn't been around for that long yet.
Yeah, and like the way we were raised, we're pretty smart people. I'm not too worried about how traditionally we've been raised. And I'm also not worried about kids not learning technology. It's kind of embedded in their genetics, because we've been working with it now. So like they all know how to swipe and pin screens when they're born. So they're not going to miss out on anything if you kind of control their environment and hold them back from technology in their early years. And then kind of have a process for it.
It's even a lot of older people, like I know of like 70-year-olds or 80-year-olds that can use iPhones, can use computers, right? So it's not like if we don't let our kids use it when they're young, they're not gonna learn, right? So it's scary. I think there's just not enough research on it, and it's kind of, I'm so glad that I'm conscious of it, because I know there's a lot of people who aren't conscious of it, of their use of social media and how it's like affecting their lives.
There's imagine the internet like this global mind where there's just constantly like terabytes of data going into this global mind, and it's all kinds. A lot of it is just bullshit. It's just nonsense, right? And then we just blindly go into it thinking that whatever it's going to give us is great. But if we're selective as to where we spend our time with it, that's what's important, because otherwise you're going to be so overloaded with nonsense information. And that's why we have like all these ADD kids nowadays who can't focus on one thing,
I think it's more of about what can this technology do for you. And I think a lot of like the smart people, a lot of people that we look up to on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, they're kind of, some of them are really smart with it, and they're using it to just profit from grabbing other people's attention, because that's what it is at the end of the day. It's attention that's really selling. Attention generates money. That's why you see all those ads on Facebook and Instagram, because that's what gets attention. So it's that, and then people are smart with it, right? And just that we, the users, need to realize that and use it, like not just cut it out of your life completely, but use it to better yourself.
Moderation.
Yeah.
And be aware as to what you're spending your time on.
Yeah.
Instead of just scrolling through.
Yeah,
social
exactly.
media feeds, right?
Yeah, and I think when we're young people like me and even younger people, I think we just look up to a lot of people on social media, and we use that, what we see on there, to make that the definition of our success. Right?
Yeah.
And we don't really have our own definition of success. I'm still trying to figure out, trying to balance, trying to figure out what success looks like for me and what I should be chasing, because I do want money.
Yeah.
I do want to be well off, but I also want to be happy. When I see someone on Instagram with driving a nice car like a Mercedes or Lamborghini, or they're like, have a private jet they're flying on, right? I do want that, and I think it's natural for everyone to want that, but it's about at what cost is that gonna come, right? What are you sacrificing for that? And
I have to disagree. I don't think it's natural for everybody to want that.
Yeah.
I think that is a conditioned process. A child is not born with that desire, but it.
So your battery's gonna die.
So I was saying, I disagree with the fact that, or with the idea that it's in our nature to desire things like private jets and Lamborghinis. I don't think that babies are born with desires like that. They're very conditioned concepts, and all of us who've been exposed to television and media and all these things are very conditioned by these ideas. You can uncondition these ideas, and you can also raise your children to not be conditioned by these ideas. And like you were saying earlier, that it's not about loving money and thinking that money equals happiness, and it's not about hating money and thinking that money causes unhappiness.
Yeah.
It's about that middle balance and understanding a balanced relationship with what money is and how to use it as a tool in your life, and find that.
I think you're pretty right, because I think what I was kind of trying to say, well, I said what I said, but now I'm tempted to say that I think we desire to be comfortable. I think everyone wants to be comfortable, but that means comfortable is subjective, right? So, I mean, the TV, the television's been around for a long time as well, and it's kind of conditioned a lot of generations, but now we're just at like a totally different extreme with all this social media. Like, if you look at a phone, it is a television and like 20 other different things at the same time. It's a camera at the same time, right? And so it is crazy, but
talking about these YouTubers and stuff, it's sparked an interesting thought. Like, when I was younger, when I was a kid and we didn't have YouTube, I would see like superstars on TV, but they always felt distant, almost unattainable. Like a Hollywood star or like a rap star on MTV or something felt very unattainable. But now when you see YouTube stars in their bedroom, your age, who are YouTube sensations, and they just started in the bedroom, that makes it so attainable for the youth of today.
Yeah.
Right? It feels like that person is just doing it from their bedroom, and they got the same camera that I have.
Yeah.
They don't have a whole crew behind them. They don't have a whole marketing team behind them.
Yeah.
They're just like me.
Yeah.
So it becomes a level playing field.
Yeah.
Right.
So do you think that's a positive, or do you think that's negative? What do you think?
It's just an observation.
Yeah.
I don't have either opinion of it, but it's just a change from the era that I grew up in into the era that is now.
Yeah, I mean that's the plus side of technology, is that we can do so much. You know, all like back in the day, like you said, to be a Hollywood star, to be in a movie, you know, had to go through auditioning, and you had to have connections, or however it worked. Right now you can start creating movies or videos on YouTube, and you know, some talent agency or some director, producer likes you and wants you to be in their movie. So that's the plus side of technology, that we can use it to really use it as a plus in our life. But I don't really think we're at that level where or we're not that used to it, that everyone looks at it like that.
And you know, now that you kind of took it there, the question you asked earlier, like, is it a plus or a negative? I think there's both to it. Like, one is there's the effect it has on people, and then the effect that one can have on people through it. So like, if we look at this, what we're doing here, the reason I agreed to this was because I saw that you wanted to do something positive for people. So like, if we look at that global mind of the internet again, there's so much shit going into that mind. Like, there's so much garbage going into it, and everybody's just consuming it. And then there's like a smaller percentage of people who are trying to bring the balance to it, and like bring some conscious stuff and some like enlightening or elevating stuff, you know. And then so that's why I couldn't refuse this. It's like anything that we're putting into it to bring the balance or to tip the scale.
I appreciate that, definitely. That is the idea behind it, because I feel like there are a lot of people that aren't talking about these things, and I think it's important that we have these conversations, because only through talk and only through discussion can we really figure ourselves out. That's the idea with it. And another thing is that like, for you yourself, you know, I remember in one of your songs, it starts off with you saying, you know, these television stations, these radios, they don't want to play my song because it's too politically charged or some bullshit.
It's like word for word.
Yeah, I was listening to it on the way here. Is that Farmer Suicide?
No, that's Martyr.
Martyr, yeah. And it's crazy because now you don't need those radio stations. You don't need the television. You know, you can really just spread your message to a lot of people very easily and very cost effective. Right? So that is the plus side of it.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's great. Like, you're only limited to your own creativity now, right? Like, literally you can get a camera for $300-400 and shoot a pretty good quality project, right?
But at the same time, I think that it's creating a trend where a lot of people feel like they have to do that they have to, that is success, that if they're not doing YouTube, or if they're not doing something on social media, then they're not successful, right? And I think it creates that need of just like sharing everything, and then getting pleasure from the likes, getting pleasure from the views, and it feeds your ego. Right? And you were talking about it earlier, how when you were starting out music and it started to gain some steam, that was the same time you were learning about humility and all that. And I think it's a lot of people really just need to have that in mind, like what are those likes or what are those views doing to your ego. And just keep that in mind, right? Are you kind of doing it for the right reason? Are you doing it for the right motive? I remember telling you this the last time we sat down, back when I was in I was writing one day, and I came up with the idea, because I always love to ask people who are older than me, what would they do if they could change anything? What would they change? Or if they could give their self advice when they were 20 or 22, what would they say to themselves, right? I love asking people that, because it helps me kind of learn from their experience. So I kind of posed that question to myself. I'm turning 23 this year, so I thought, what if I could tell my 13-year-old self anything, what would I tell? And one of the things was figure out your motives. That's what I would tell myself as a 13-year-old. Why are you doing things? I remember I was trying out for the basketball team in grade 6, grade 7, and it's not because I liked basketball. I didn't really enjoy basketball. I was a skinny guy. I couldn't even lift the ball. I thought the ball was so heavy, so shooting it was like very hard. But I remember doing that because I did that I wanted to get on the basketball team to be cool, to be popular, to make some friends and stuff. And that was really the motive behind it. But at that time I wasn't, I was saying to myself, I just want to be good at basketball, right? I just want to be, good. And so definitely that's one of the things I would say to myself, is to know your motive. Why are you doing things? And then that kind of just makes you conscious of yourself.
It seems like for a lot of us who don't become self-reflective as we get older, like that same attitude that one could have at that age, where we're doing superficial things like that to get a sense of recognition or appreciation, that same personality just evolves when we get older, and what was once a basketball team becomes a private jet. You know what I mean? Like now that becomes recognition, because as we grow, so do our traits, So it's important, I think, at a young age to learn to be self-reflective, like you're saying, know your motives, and kind of take a step back for some self-analysis. And not to criticize yourself and become like destructive of yourself, which is very deadly. It's very deadly if you go down that path. It's about detaching from that self and looking at it like, and this is where all that spirituality stuff comes in, man. Like all these texts, they teach you this level of detachment from yourself, which is, this flesh is not me, this body is not me, this is simply a vessel that I'm riding through right now, and this is gonna die, but consciousness does not die. Its energy does not finish. So if you look at it like that, then you become sort of detached from all the happenings in this life they're happening to you, whether they're emotional, whether they're desires, whether they're gains and losses start looking the same. Right? And so you sort of just ride through this life, and everything is kind of okay. It's always okay,
because you may die, but ideas always last forever, so if you can create an idea or gain give that idea some momentum, then ultimately you can live forever in a way. You know what I mean? Like
but okay, so I mean I've heard that so many times, and like what is it inside of us that wants to leave a mark or an impression on this world? Why is that such a big thing? Like, there's been so many rulers of this planet, like Alexander the Great. Sure, we remember his name, but nobody gives a shit, really.
Yeah.
Like, it's done and over with. Everybody cares about their own life, and that's it. Unless, like the greats never cared about leaving their name behind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were just great because of that. Their greatness was from being so themselves and so real. The great minds did not even care for their name because they understood it was bigger than them.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is kind of that those greats did things, and that kind of changed the world in a sense.
Right.
So I'm not saying that was their idea to
to do
leave a mark.
Yeah.
But they did leave a mark just because they were doing things.
Right.
Right. So if you go in with the idea of I want my name to live forever, or I want my idea to live forever, it probably won't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you're just being yourself and you're being self-reflective, then like your music.
Yeah.
For example, that's gonna live forever. In a sense,
it'll probably fade.
I mean, there's like symphonies from like back in like Beethoven. I don't know how, like 1800s I think or something, and that's still one of like the best symphonies in the world, right?
Yeah.
So like it is gonna stay there. Right, but if you're going in with the idea of it staying there, then
I don't care for that. Because it's just it's just about
and I watch a lot of YouTube. I have been watching a lot of YouTube, and I've kind of watch one person a lot, and then like have like phases of it, and like watch another person a lot, and then like watch another person. And then I remember kind of the first guy that I used to watch was Elliot Hulse, and kind of like I listened to like his philosophy on life and stuff, and then I watched other people, but I can't remember who I watched in between that. That was like 2013, like right after high school. I kind of started watching him, and then the past little bit I've been watching Gary Vee a lot. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's like an entrepreneur, so I've been watching him a lot. Before that, it's like Ty Lopez, been watching all these guys. But recently I came to the conclusion that everyone's really just saying their main message is just like be self-aware, figure yourself out, right? And that's kind of the message I came across. And I think a lot of people, that's the message they give you. They'll say it in a different way, but I think that's how you can be successful, if you take the time to understand yourself and figure out what you like, what you don't like, and then from that you can really decide on what you want success to be. Right. And it's not, you should learn from your mistakes. You shouldn't hate yourself for it. In the past, from September, I had a really good job. I had a really cool job, right? And I was going through some stuff, right? And so early September, I decided to quit that job, and immediately after I started regretting it. Like, there was days like where like at night I'd like wake up and like, or I couldn't go to sleep, and I'd be like, oh Maninder, you're such an idiot. Why did you leave that job? That was such a good job. You could have like, like everything would have worked out for you and stuff. And from September to kind of like December, towards the end of December, I kind of just like kept that in mind, and I was kind of just trying to suppress it. And I was kind of like, forget about it, like, the past is gone. I was saying those typical things, and then I remember one day I decided to sit down and I started to write my feelings about it. Why do I feel bad about it? Why did I make that decision? What was influencing me to make that decision? And it just like kind of like made things more clear for me. I realized why what was influencing me, and why was I feeling like that, and what was causing all that, and I kind of like learned from it a little bit. And so it was like I was being self-reflective, and that helped me out a lot. And even now, like I still kind of regret it, like leaving it, right? I still kind of regret it.
Real talk. Right?
Yeah, but it's not how it was before, right? Because I'm taking it for what it is, and I'm trying to just learn from it.
Yeah, sometimes decisions are difficult to make, but you gotta make them, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to accept that you made them, and
yeah.
that's the only way to live. If there's like slivers of doubt, those slivers can be just as painful as a broken leg. You know what I mean? Like they can cause just as much irritation in your life and hold you back from moving forward.
Yeah.
So it's important to address them within yourself and fully embrace that the new day, the premier life.
Yeah, exactly. Right? And I think that's the main idea. I just got, that's kind of what I'm big on right now, is just self-awareness, self-development, and figuring myself out. I think it's important for a 22-year-old or for a teenager, for any young person, even if it doesn't even matter about the age actually. I think you need to take time out to really go deep and address those issues. Because if you just think you're gonna be alright one day, you're not gonna be alright. And I think sometimes that's in our, just to kind of go on another path, I think that's kind of what happens in our society, is sometimes a lot of women who are not with the greatest people, they just take that abuse or whatever it may be, and they keep taking it, and then one day it just spills over and they end up doing something crazy, right? So Yep. So I think we've been talking for quite a long time. I came here at like 7 and it's like 9:45 now. So do you want to have any closing comments or anything like that?
I just want to wish you all the best on this venture, and I'm glad I could be part of your first episode. And I think you have good direction in your life.
I appreciate it.
Wish you the best on it, man.
Alright.
Yeah, it was good to do this.
Thank you. And we're all looking forward to your new album that's going to be coming out. He gave me a little bit of a preview of both. He played the beats for me, and they're pretty good, so make sure you guys check them out. And I'll put his links and stuff and all that there. But yeah, his new album, I'm looking forward to it.
Cool, man.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again.
Peace,
all right.
Everyone.
Yeah.